The Waterline Live. Join the climate conversation with Jonathan Levy.
Hi, so I am Emma Brown. I am the Programme Manager for the Living with Water project.
So what is Living with Water?
So Living with Water is a partnership between the different authorities responsible for flood risk in the local region. So we've got Yorkshire Water, Hull City Council, the Environment Agency, East Riding of Yorkshire Council and the University of Hull as well, supporting us all things research.
Okay, so big challenges really for Hull. We've seen a glimpse of what can happen when we get, extreme weather, tidal surges. It's coming at us from all angles. But what is the role of Living with Water? What are you trying to achieve?
So Living with Water is predominantly focused on surface water, which was responsible for the floods that we saw in 2007. Obviously working alongside other colleagues in the Environment Agency looking at the Humber 2100 and tidal risk. So our focus really is around empowering communities, so understanding if they are at flood risk, how they can address flood risk on a personal level through building resilience, so working together to drive an investment case and put forward schemes in the city using blue-green solutions. So rather than our traditional approach of using tanks, we're now moving towards creating more holistic solutions which mimic the natural flow of water through a landscape, which also provide water quality benefits. They provide lovely amenity and well-being benefits for local communities as well.
Yeah, and we've seen some of those, if you like, natural defences or holding areas being developed around the countryside. I've seen them though, those fields that look, what's that doing there? That sort of deep field that everybody's there, I guess, to take away the stresses from huge downpours.
Yes, absolutely. So surrounding Hull at the moment, we already have had significant investment in the various lagoons, and that is looking at taking surface water that would traditionally run off the countryside from the higher lands in the Wolds into Hull, kind of forms a bit of a bowl. So traditionally or naturally all of that water would come into the city, flow through the city out to the estuary, and those lagoons are there to capture the heavy rainfall, store that water until there is capacity in the network to get it through the city and out into the estuary. But there is significant residual risk which still needs to be managed, and this has to be done through a slow and steady kind of, we call it a nibbling approach, where we're doing small things in lots of areas to kind of replicate green space in what is now a very grey landscape where historically we have filled in drains and ditches, and the watercourses are all built up higher than the land that surrounds it.
I mean, we are experiencing changes in our weather patterns. We're seeing more prolonged times of drought. We're seeing heavier downpours. And no matter what we do about reducing our emissions, we're going to have to live with these changes in the coming years. And I guess that's part of your message. So what are you encouraging both households and businesses to consider?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do. We know that regardless of what happens in the future, we will need to deal with the effects of climate change. This means that heavy downpours, like we saw in 2007, may occur more frequently than we would have been used to. And so, as well as Living with Water authorities investment, we're working with customers and with businesses to say, well, what can you do at home? So on a household level, things like water butts, keeping grass in your garden rather than paving that over for a driveway, or if that is necessary, using more permeable surfaces like permeable resins or paving, and through to businesses where, the importance of the event we're at today is looking at how do we start to build relationships with businesses to understand how surface water management can become part of normal day-to-day activity. So if a business is looking to regenerate or improve their local facility, how could we work with them to introduce some small measures that might make them a water neutral site or minimise the runoff from their site, not only protecting them from the impact of flood risk, but their neighbours and surrounding communities as well. Looking predominantly, as I said, for those wider benefits, having a wellbeing facility where workers can kind of spend some time in a more natural environment. So really looking at the different, we call it 4 pillars of sustainable drainage.
And you're here at the Waterline Summit, you're participating, you're meeting organisations from across the region. How helpful is that?
So it's a fantastic opportunity for us. So we are currently understanding what our future looks like. We've just worked on a 25-year plan around how do we bring about the change that we want to see, and communities and businesses need to kind of be a huge part of that. So this allows us that early engagement to understand how do we best work with businesses to kind of collaborate on this longer term strategy and journey.
Fantastic. Well,
Okay.
thanks for joining us on the Waterline Live, and enjoy the rest of the summit.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Join the climate conversation with Jonathan Levy, a Blue Aurora media production for Marketing Humber.